Welcome back to Movie Recap. Today I'm gonna show you a 2017 Australian biographical survival drama film called Jungle. Part 1. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie starts with Yossi Ginsberg narrating his true-to-life story, and he left Israel in 1980 after 3 years in the army. He wants to escape the well-worn path of finishing school, getting a job, having a wife, and having kids. He wants to be different, which makes him end up in Bolivia, in a village up in the mountains. He loves adventure, traveling across South America to discover new things. Yossi goes to his boat, then when they're almost in the middle of the river, a guy is shouting at the boatman and says wait for him. They turn around the boat, and pick up the guy, and his name is Marcus Stam, a Swiss teacher who loves to have an adventure in everything. They are also in a jungle with other travelers called the backpacking community. Marcus and Yossi enjoy the night, and they get to know each other. As the morning comes, both of them go to a city, and there's a festival going on. As they roam around, Marcus sees his friend, Kevin Gale, a photographer. They know each other because they are Westerners who love to travel to South America. And the three of them get along with each other. They talk about their lives before they decide to travel. When the night is going on, a local girl keeps on eyeing Yossi, and he decides to follow her since she's been doing it for a couple of nights already. Yossi goes with this girl during the night, and they start to have fun in the girl's tent. She prepares a drink called San Pedro. Yossi drinks it until he gets high with its effect. They lie down next to each other, and their imagination starts, which means that San Pedro is kicking in. Before the night ends, they begin to kiss. They wake up the following day and are still together, lying down on a hammock with their heads from each side. The girl is reading a book, and she gets overwhelmed by the quote in the book she's reading. It says, "It takes time to live." Both of them realize what it truly means, and Yossi talks about his plans, and why he gets so adventurous. On October 15, 1981, back in the city of La Paz, Bolivia. There's a huge festival going on, and as an adventurer himself, Yossi roams around the city by himself and gets to see everything it offers. There are fireworks everywhere, locals are dancing, music is too loud, and products and food go around. Then there's a Caucasian guy who comes close to him. This guy gives Yossi a picture, and explains everything about this hidden world that only he knows. He tells the story of a lost Indian tribe in the middle of the forest called Toromonas Indians. He explains his fascinating facts about them, making Yossi curious since he likes to adventure. Yossi gets home and explains everything he knows about the Toromonas Indians to Marcus and Kevin, and they say that they shouldn't go because they don't have an assurance that this strange guy is speaking the truth to them. They are about to go home to America, but Yossi pleads with them to stay and cancel their flight, and just give this man a chance and meet with him. In the end, Marcus and Kevin say yes to Yossi, and the following day they meet up with the strange man. The strange man's name is Carl, and he's been in the forest so many times. He explains the map of Bolivia to them and the trek where this hidden tribe belongs in Rio, Colorado. But they need to fly to Apollo first, and then they need to go to Asariamas, a local village inside the forest. Carl convinces the three, especially an aspiring professional photographer, Kevin, because he says that his photos can be in National Geographic when they can find this lost tribe and get it to the media. After that conversation with Carl, they find themselves eating ice cream on the sidewalk of La Paz, discussing everything that they talked about with Carl. Kevin wants to go on the adventure because of the recognition he can get from taking breathtaking pictures. Marcus doesn't want to go, but he says yes to it with a few convincing tactics from his friends. Now with Carl, they start shopping for their food for the next few days of their adventure. As they are preparing everything, Carl restricts them to bring a wallet and watch, so they put it all together in a box. But Yossi finds his uncle's booklet. Marcus and Kevin ask why he will bring such a thing. Yossi explains that his uncle carried it before during war and treats it like protection or a lucky charm. It was given to him by his uncle 2 days before he passed. That's why he needs to bring it with him. They flew to Apollo on November 4, 1981. As they put their feet on the ground, they begin to hike already. As they walk, Carl leads the way, and he explains why he is passionate about nature. He talks about how people are obsessed with control, making unnecessary national parks, protecting something already gone, and many more. Along their way, they start to see animals they've never seen before. Kevin starts to take pictures of them because it genuinely amazes them. On their first night, they begin to do a bonfire, and Carl explains the life of tribal cultures. He explains that even if they look like they are from the Stone Age, in reality, they are far ahead of us. The three listen to him because he's like a teacher when he speaks. As they go to sleep, Marcus gets attacked by a killer moth. He panics, and they wake up. They tease him the following day, but Carl tells them to hurry because there's rain about to come. They don't believe him because the sun is shining on them. But a few hours after, they are wet by the heavy rain. As the night comes again, they heat their wet clothes through the bonfire they make. They ask Carl how he knows that there is rain to come. The explanation he gives is that he knows everything. Another day comes, another walking and hiking on a path without a destination. Carl is walking too fast, and they get lost in the middle of their hike because they saunter. Marcus yells at them and tells them to wait, but Kevin and Yossi say they need to keep going. As they argue about what instruction to follow, they get quiet when they hear strange noises coming from afar. Their nervousness gets lost when a local with a bull appears. They ask him where at Asariyamas, and he pinpoints the direction. They thank him for that. They see Carl standing at the cliff's edge, looking down at the locals. Yossi confronts Carl that he should inform them if he leaves them again next time. The argument is done, and they go off the cliff and go to the village of Asariyamas people. Marcus, Yossi, and Kevin decide to take a bath in the river. They get shy when they notice that everyone in the village is looking at them like they're the main show. During the night, the locals offer them their village's wine. Yossi drinks it and almost throws up because he describes it like puke and shit combined. That's how it tastes. However, when Marcus is sitting somewhere in the village, there's a local old lady with her grandson who comes close to Marcus and asks him to treat the boy's wound. Marcus applies a treatment, and shortly after that, there's a line of villagers to Marcus, mistakenly thinking he's a doctor. The following day they leave the village, and Yossi finds gold as they filter out the stones they picked up earlier. When they're still at the river's beach, they find a herd of colorful butterflies. Yossi slowly walks to them, and Kevin starts to take pictures. After that, they begin their journey again, and then Carl explains the world again, telling them that he gets cancelled because he suggests solving Earth's problems. As they go farther, they see a monkey playing around the tree. They stop, and the three look at Carl and what he's about to do. Carl shoots the monkey down and kills him. When the monkey is on the ground, he starts to pound the monkey's head using the tip of his gun until it dies. They tell him to stop, but he keeps going. Carl explains that that's what they're going to eat for dinner, since its meat tastes the best. As hours pass by, they settle down and start a bonfire again. Carl just puts the monkey in their middle as it starts to cook. He pinches its meat and eats it. The three of them can't fathom what Carl is doing. They look at him with all disgust, but they don't have a choice since they're all hungry. Kevin starts to eat and approves of its taste. Yossi follows, but Marcus is about to throw up and decides not to eat. Before they go to sleep, Carl warns them about jaguars because if there is a monkey in an area, there are also jaguars since they are also monkey hunters. Carl pities Marcus, and he decides to cook rice for him. The sun shines on them again, giving them a signal to continue their journey. Marcus gets tired and weak, but he hasn't been eating anything. He slowly falls. Later that day, Kevin and Yossi find Carl treating Marcus' foot because it's full of wounds and blood. It's swelling. All of them take a test, and Kevin gets annoyed with Marcus because he's acting like a Girl Scout clinging to his papa, Carl. He wants to get out of there before the rainy season starts because it will be harder for them to get out when it starts raining. At night, Marcus senses the tension between him and the two. He can feel the annoyance, and the ambience between them is quiet. When Carl decides to go into his tent, Marcus confronts Kevin and Yossi, telling them that he doesn't want anything to happen like that. It's his fault why they're being delayed, and he's sorry for it. He can't walk even if he wants to because of his swollen foot. But Kevin acts like he doesn't care, and goes to the tent. Yossi follows, and when they're inside, they hear Marcus cry outside. Another sun shines on them. Because of Marcus' situation, Yossi, Kevin, and Carl are discussing the plans they need to make. The first option is to go back to Asariyama's village because Marcus won't be able to walk for another 3 to 4 days. That's the best idea that Carl wants to do. On the other hand, Carl will leave them in the meantime and go to the lost village of Tormonas. He will get a local from that tribe, and then come back again to the three travelers, and the local can guide the three to go to their village. Kevin and Yossi disagree because they want to be with Carl as much as possible. In the end, Kevin thinks of an idea to build a raft and go through the river so that they will not walk anymore. They vote, 3 against 1, and they win. After that discussion, they start to build their raft. When they're about to start, Carl gives them strict instructions. When the water is calm, paddle. If there are rapids, use the pole, and follow the water. They get into the raft and start their river journey. At first, Kevin shouts out of excitement. But after a few minutes, they face a rampage of rapids going against them. They all panic because even Carl doesn't know what to do. He says they need to paddle from left to right, but Kevin keeps on arguing about what he said earlier to follow the waters. They almost fall off the raft, and Kevin and Carl fight. Carl decides to stop at the nearby beach when the water calms down. They continuously argue at the beach. When the heat cools down, Carl walks out to go hunting. While waiting for Carl, Kevin describes Yossi Carl's reaction earlier when they're in the water. He looks terrified, Maybe because he can't swim. Thanks for watching. Please continue to watch part 2 on the next video. Have a nice day.